and it's so awkward. I'm pouring my heart out in front of you, and you can't even like nod your head a little bit. You're just
Oh,
standing there with your arms crossed. Oh, it drives me crazy.
what is up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure podcast. This has been an episode I've been very, very excited about. We've had a few opportunities here at Scoped with doing the podcast and filming shows to get. I feel like we've only scratched the surface of like being able to document or do our part in documenting the more DIY screamo scene that is indefinitely and undeniably connected to the hardcore scene overall. And when Roman Candle popped up on my radar and I started to listen and see the live videos and how that band started to carry themselves, I was like, oh, this is a clear example of bridging those two worlds together. So when I reached out to Piper and they said they were down to do the pod, I was very, very excited to help set it up. So without further ado, Piper of Roman Candle on the Scoped Exposure podcast. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, dude, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. So Piper, this is your first time here on the show, and I don't know if you've listened to any past episodes, but we like to check a bev before we get into the music chat. So it's tradition for the guests to go first. So tell me what you got for the show.
For sure. I'm a little bit of a coffee snob. Fair warning. I have an iced Americano. I bought an espresso machine late last year.
Okay.
And the coffee beans are from Verve in LA.
Okay.
Bomb drink. Very
Bomb
good.
drink. Okay.
Yes.
How many coffees are you a day normally?
I try to limit myself to 2.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, if I'm gonna like go out or something, it's probably like 3 or 4.
Yeah. So sometimes it's a good or bad decision to dance with the caffeine devil, and you can feel your blood pressure rushing. But I try to stick to a 2 coffee a day as well. So
yeah.
And Verve, that's your go-to.
My go-to actually
third wave
is,
kind of spot, or
no, there's a spot in Vegas called Vesta that I think is like the best coffee shop in the world. Like even when I go and visit other places, like none of it compares to Vesta, which is a little disappointing, but also kind of cool. It's like it's like 5 minutes from me. But yeah, that's my go-to.
Top coffee spot in the world. That's high praise. I know there's a lot of people.
I'm gonna say I haven't. I haven't seen the whole world yet.
Right.
But like I've been to like New York and like even Seattle and like Portland, the whole Southern California, all of California actually. And I think Vesta tops all those spots.
Okay. Well, coming in hot with some fighting words as far as coffee goes.
I
But,
know.
To each their own. It's your experience, and I've never had, so maybe I have to ride for Vesta next time I'm in Vegas.
Dude,
I'm not drinking your coffee myself, but for listeners, I've recently moved out to Eastern Canada just for a short amount of time, and this was a bev that is not really. I've never seen it in Western Canada, and I've had some people out east send me photos of stuff that I have to try. So I'm very excited to try with you officially, first time on the podcast. So this is by a company called City Seltzer, and it's called the Berry Whip. So
I've seen those.
Yeah, so it's like boysenberry, black currant, and vanilla, and not even top 3 flavors, but some top flavors all together for one bev. So I'm stoked about it.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah. Piper, cheers to you, friend. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Dude, thank you. I appreciate it.
That Berry Whip has a whip to it. That's very good. Do you make all your coffee at home, or you, because you said you're a coffee snob, so, do you have a setup at home where you've been able to craft your own stuff? Or are you like, I only go to the best of the best when I'm out?
I wish I could go to the best of the best, but I mean, it's a little pricey. It adds up. So I do have a little setup at home, which is super cool. I'm super lucky to have that.
Yeah.
My partner and I went in on an espresso machine around November. There's like a Black Friday sale on the one we've been eyeballing, and we just split it, and it was our gift to each other. So it's been great.
Honestly, an espresso machine is the gift that keeps on giving.
Dude, it
So
is. Yeah. I've saved money definitely in the long run.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I'm like, am I spending more money by making at home coffee? Because you're just like doing the math of how many bags of beans you're buying per. But you're like,
Mhm.
no, I definitely am if I'm not having to go to even like a Starbucks or anything like that, depending
No,
on what your
exactly.
coffee standards are. But Piper, yeah, I'm very excited to have you on the show. Any new guest that comes here on that, there haven't been any previous conversations before, I like to ask kind of the same intro question as far as how they got onto their, heavy music origin story kind of thing. So talk to me the first time that you were hearing something that was more alternative, hardcore, punk, screamo, however you want to spin it, as far as what kind of put you on that path less traveled.
For sure. So I spent a lot of time growing up with my uncle. He is about 16 years older than me. And he was just a hardcore kid. He was super into all that shit. And I think the first heavy band he showed me was like old Bring Me the Horizon,
Oh, okay.
like super early Bring Me the Horizon. And at first I hated it. I was like 8 years old and I was like, what is this? And then eventually it just like grew on me, and he would show me all his music, and my first concerts I went to were with him. And yeah, it was really cool. So I think Bring Me the Horizon, and then eventually he showed me like Poison the Well and Bleeding Through, and like that early 2000s like metalcore type stuff. And then from there I started going to shows when I was like a senior in high school, I think, like 17, 18-ish.
Mhm.
And that's kind of how I got into like more of the strictly hardcore stuff, was just through going to shows and meeting people and seeing cool new bands.
Very cool. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
were really like thrown in the deep end immediately.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think all of my music taste, even aside from the stuff that's heavy, really is because of him. He showed me a lot of really cool stuff.
hmm Yeah,
Hmm.
and some people do have that like person in their family circle or like a friend at school even to kind of like really show them a way. And some people are just
Hmm.
like discovering it through the internet, and they're kind of like on an island. They don't have those counterparts necessarily within you know because I was talking about this with my family like last night. Like I feel like, and because you when you get so deep into it, it's not even a question about am I going to be able to go and connect with someone in this city at this show. Like I feel like once you're
Hmm.
so deep into it, you could go to any show in any city and be able to like pick it up with hopefully someone, based off of a
Definitely.
shirt or whatever but at least in the early stages you need someone to help pull you under, so to
Yeah.
speak. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you definitely need someone too to kind of be like, yeah, that band's good, but you can't really like acknowledge that you listen to them. Like the goofy kind of bands. Like I'm sure everyone when they first start listening to heavy music when they're like a kid, they're like, um, God, what's like a really cringy example? Fucking like Nickelback or something. They're probably like, yeah, this is like rock. This is so sick. And
Mhm.
you kind of need that like older influence in your life to be like, no, you can't tell people you listen to that. Like, that's not going to get you where you want to be.
Well, I didn't think it was gonna come up this early, but you did bring up Nickelback, and
Uh
I
huh.
I just need to say there are people in the hardcore scene that fuck with Nickelback,
There are. One of my best friends
myself
loves
included.
Nickelback.
So,
Yeah. Oh no.
oh no.
um,
I mean, one of
I
my like we've covered, not like fully covered a song, but like did the intro of one song.
Oh, that's what's strong.
Animals.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like
I
if you
mean,
go back, there's some riffs.
mhm.
You have to kind of dodge some of the radio rock shit that comes out nowadays, but even
Yeah.
like anyway, I'm not trying to overpower as far as the Nickelback conversation.
No.
But I heard that brought up on another podcast that you were on. I was like, oh, I don't know if Piper is a Nickelback hater or a I will neither hate nor love. Is kind of neither here nor there.
I am indifferent to Nickelback. I will say when it comes to like radio rock, I love Evanescence.
Yes.
They're one of my favorite bands like ever. So who am I to judge when someone likes Nickelback?
Yeah.
Like radio rock, whatever. I'm sure a lot of people that like that stuff will like listen to it growing up, so I can't fully hate.
Yeah.
But I do not listen to them in my free time. I will say that.
I'll send you some riffs after this. Don't you worry.
Okay.
But
okay.
I understand what you were saying as far as like if someone's like, yo, I really like like The Devil Wears Prada, let's say. It's like, okay, that's cool.
That's a good example.
But like I need to I want to put you on the right path of like this was an era of metalcore, but let me show you a band like Chamber or Your Spirit Dies or like things like that to kind of like this is what's happening actually right now. And like no hate or shade at The Devil Wears Prada. Like I grew up on that shit. But it's like you kind of stay at one tier and then you need someone to kind of work. Yeah, like, hey, there's more.
Exactly. Yeah, you need those deep cuts.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes people can get stuck there. And I feel like those are the people that go to shows that they go to the bigger shows, and then when the rest of the scene comes by, it's like, why aren't you coming to the other, like, you like this shit, so why are you not going to the other stuff that's happening every weekend?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, so was it mainly your uncle who was kind of showing you stuff, or like, were there any other figures or anyone else in your life, or was he the one to kind of like push you over the edge to be like, okay, I'll do all of my own homework and research?
I think he was the one. I didn't even have to do my own homework until I got older. I mean, he straight up gave me like, when Google like Play Music was a thing, he was big on that, and he just straight up shared his entire like catalog with me, like all of the music in his library. He just put it on like a hard drive and was like, here, listen to all of this. Aside from that though, I mean, my mom listened to a lot of like, I guess like radio rock in the early 2000s, like System and Evanescence and Korn, and like that was stuff she was really into. And then I think it was those like the deeper cuts and the heavier stuff that my uncle really put me onto. And I mean, him and I hung out a lot. Like I lived with him for a little bit. So even just like sitting in the car, he would always just be playing something,
Yeah.
It was cool.
So I feel like there's kind of a transition point where you're hearing the music and you're maybe seeing the music videos and all of that, but like when you see it live and you feel it, like the energy in that room, talk to me about that first time for you.
Oh God. I think it was the first time I went to Extreme Thing in 2014. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
No.
but
does it start with an X?
No, it's like Extreme, like with an E. It's like a little festival they had in Vegas. It's kind of like Warped Tour Junior. Like they would have all of the like the really popular like heavier bands like Of Mice and Men and Bring Me the Horizon and the Used and stuff like that. And then on the side there would be like little BMX competitions and skate competitions and stuff. And it was a really cool fest. I think 2014 was the last year they did it. And I went with my aunt and uncle, and yeah, that was the first like heavier show I went to. And I remember sitting on his shoulders for Bring Me the Horizon. And I just felt this like, yeah, I mean, they were like my favorite band growing up. They were like the boy band for emo kids,
Yeah.
And I don't know, it was crazy. It's like, it was so overwhelming. I think I teared up a little bit, just like all the energy, and it was so loud, and it was so much, and I think I felt that again after the pandemic too. Because there was like 3 years of no shows in Vegas. And then I was just walking around downtown when things slowly started opening up again. And I felt that feeling again of like that, like I just heard live music for the first time in a couple of years in person.
Oh, so
and
not even like, it's like the craziest mosh call I've ever heard, and then I become an animal and whatever. It was just hearing live music in the public. I do remember having a similar, I can't place it exactly where it was, but I do remember being out and hearing a band playing even on a patio, and I'm like, whoa, like
Yeah.
I never thought I'd hear or see that again.
I know, exactly. That's what it was. It was, some little, like, local indie band that was playing at, like, an antique shop, and it
Mm,
was still, like, COVID was just barely kinda, like things were barely starting to open up, and everyone was still wearing masks, and everyone was still standing super far apart,
yeah.
but I just heard, like, a little guitar and, like, little, little riffs, little drum kit, and I was
Mm.
just like, "Oh my god, this is amazing." So,
Uh,
I think sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's very interesting to hear you go from seeing Bring Me the Horizon concert to like that small and delicate of a moment, but still having like very similar reactions to it. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting too because I mean I was 14 the first time I like really felt that, that like kind of overwhelming, energetic kind of feeling. And then to feel it again in like I think I was 20 or 21 at the time. I don't know, it was crazy. I never thought I would feel that again in my
Hmm.
life.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing though. It was the same exact feeling, just in very different settings and kind of for similar reasons though. I mean, the first time I heard it, I'd never heard it before. And then the second time I felt that, it was like, oh, I never thought I'd feel this feeling again.
Yeah.
And it's
It was a
happening. And
long
it's
enough
just so
gap of
sudden.
time of not hearing it to being like, oh
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
exactly.
That's cool. So,
Hmm.
like, are you born and raised in Vegas, lived there your whole life?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Hmm.
So, and the reason I ask is, and I think this is a healthy practice, at least for anyone listening. Like, sometimes all it takes is like one band from a specific underdog or like not as talked about scene to help like open up the conversation and expose some of the other bands and things that are happening there. And
Definitely.
I'm saying that as someone that like, started this whole project of mine because Western Canada was like constantly getting overlooked when it came to shows. Any North
Hmm.
American tour that would get announced, it would just go up to Toronto and then just go back or maybe go to Vancouver. There was actually
Hmm.
a counterparts announced a Western Canada tour today, and I guess they didn't have a Vancouver show for some reason. And everyone's like, "No Vancouver." I'm like, the amount of times a tour has been announced and just gone to Vancouver, so y'all can just
Hmm.
kick rocks for this one. I don't know,
Oh
but
yeah, I feel that.
to like for Vegas, the only band that I was privy to, um, that isn't really in the screamo scene at all, but was a band that I saw at a fest that we were filming in California called Distinguisher, and it kind of just
Hmm.
got my like brain going of like, man, I don't know like who like gigs and who plays in Vegas, but I would see when Pain of Truth, Tsunami, no, Pain of Truth, Ingrown, and Drain would play when they did that tour. One of like the video, like all the videos that I was seeing was of this Vegas show, and I'm just like,
Hmm.
oh, like something's going on here. And I would see like multiple tours that would go through Vegas and would be of that same spot, and so I was
Yeah.
like, okay, there's something happening here. And then when Roman Candle popped up on my radar and I saw you guys were from Vegas, I was like, oh, okay. So I'm not saying that this episode needs to be the whole like Las Vegas hardcore 101 kind of thing, but
Uh-huh.
maybe we're skipping a little bit, but like talk to me about like what, obviously the band has a lot of there's some momentum behind y'all right now. But like how do you think that has or has that already had a trickle down effect into the local scene which y'all are from?
I That's a really good question. I think it's so I will give you a little 101 on the Vegas scene just to kind of
Please,
put
yeah.
some context to that. And if that's all we talk about, I'm happy to because I am very very proud of what we have going on. So in Vegas, there's because we have like the strip and because it's such a big entertainment city, like
Mhm.
that's how the city makes all of its money. There's an entertainment tax that anyone has to pay to throw shows and events and stuff like that.
Mm.
And not only that, but liquor laws are extremely strict in Vegas. Like you can't have a bar within like 700 feet of an all ages space or something like that. It's something crazy
Oh,
unless there's
okay.
like a wall blocking it off.
Mm.
So given that there's entertainment tax, because that's how we make our money, and that liquor laws are super strict because there's so many bars all everywhere, we kind of have to be strict with it or else the city would just kind of go under.
Sure.
It's really hard for DIY venues to be a thing. Not
Mhm.
only that, but because those small venues aren't paying that entertainment tax. Um, the bigger venues that are downtown, like Brooklyn Bowl and like House of Blues and all the bars, they kind of have it in with the city, and they'll get those venues shut down because they want all of that business, because that's how the city makes its money.
I see.
So because of that, the only places we really have to throw shows are the places you're talking about. They're like veteran halls,
Mm-hmm.
because there's two of them, and Black Path Booking, who kind of just created the hardcore scene out here. They kind of have an in with the veteran halls, and the city isn't going to come in and like press a bunch of vets, So
Yes.
it's kind of like a weird
Recipe for
like
disaster.
exactly. It's kind of like a weird like middle ground space where city's not going to come and say anything about it, but also not everyone can book there because
Right.
it's such a sacred spot. So for a while, it was really hard. I mean, it's hard for bands to play Vegas, period, because there's only one or two promoters that can book at those spots. And then the people who are doing other small like backyard shows, or they try to open like a little warehouse will pop up here and there. Like those promoters don't last long because it's just they're constantly losing money. So unless it's a bigger band coming through that can play like Brooklyn Bowl, or a big enough band to pack out Legion, because it still costs money to book there.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do anything.
Yeah.
So with that being said, it's been really cool to see, like, I think with us, with Roman Candle having a little bit of like momentum and traction behind us, I've been able to finally have this conversation, because it's such like only people in Vegas know about it. Everyone
Right.
just thinks that people hate Vegas. No one wants to play Vegas, but that's not the case.
Right.
It's like it's really hard for DIY to thrive in Vegas because of because of the city.
Yeah.
Which
Well, I
is super
appreciate
lame.
I appreciate you like educating all of us, because
No, I'm happy to.
because there are a lot of things that people will just fill in the blanks in their own mind because they either won't do their research, or there's not something or someone talking about that said thing. But yeah, like there's many reasons why like certain like it was a big thing, at least in Western Canada for me, where it was like, well, I understand why certain people are just not routing up to us, because it is
Hmm.
way more um, there's so much more distance to travel when you're going city to city, versus if you're trying to do like a little eastern, like a northeast run, you can get to like the next town in, a couple hours, a few hours of that. But like for
Yeah.
us, it's like getting to the next city is like 8 hours away, and it's like a full day of driving.
Hmm.
But like, I think a very, something for me is like finding, it's like, okay, these are the cards that I'm dealt. Am I just gonna like complain about it, or I'm gonna try to find a way to make something happen? And like
Yeah.
DIY culture in general has like really taught me that, and like I apply that to like my own life, the stuff that I do with this show. But it is just like very. It sounds like there's even an extra layer just because of how Vegas is set up as a city, and how
Hmm.
it's a place where people are going and seeing shows and gambling. And I'm not trying to paint it with a super generic brush, but like it
Yeah.
is one of those cities.
It
But
is
that
like that.
has
Yeah.
a cause and effect for people that are just like, we're trying to bring like 100 kids into a spot to like pay for gas for the touring band. That's all we're trying to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah, and it's crazy because I feel like with how close Vegas is to LA, like, and how small of a city Vegas is too. Like, Vegas is small. Like,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that live here, but you can get from one end of the city to the other end of the city in like 35 minutes without traffic.
The whole
Like,
city?
it's the whole city. Like, it's not a
Wow.
big
Okay.
spot at all. So I think that there definitely is the capability for Vegas to be something similar to LA, where like there's just shows going off all the time, and there's so many little pockets and niches, and there's so many people who are into music. There's so many kids who are in bands, but just simply because of, like you said, how the city is set up, it's hard to kind of work around it. But we do have people who have kind of made it work, like the dudes in Black Path. I love those guys. They're the reason I am even in a band right now. They're really putting it on, and they found a way to work around it, and they bring some really cool shows here. And I think it's something that's really special right now. And it's really cool because I think every kid in Vegas that goes to shows acknowledges that. So we're all like super respectful of the space. Like anytime there's a fight, it's like broken up immediately. Like it's kind of just like this really tight knit community of everyone acknowledging that this isn't, if we want to have this, we have to like make it last, you know.
Yeah. And you have to be
It's not
like it
yeah.
doesn't sound great or sexy, but it's like you have to be responsible for like the
Mhm.
spaces you're in. Like go off and have fun, but like there's a time and place of like the people who are like, I'm gonna go hang on that, or I'm gonna start a fight with this person because like whatever. So
Exactly.
it's cool to hear that because that's a lot of stress for the people that are booking the show. They're like, literally, it's one bad thing to go wrong, and these people could kick us out forever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that we're all so aware of that. At least, I mean, because Black Path are, I mean, there's a few other people who do like hardcore shows too. There's Outlook, Fanzine, and like Hell House Productions. They put on some smaller shows, but Black Path, they're kind of like the big dogs right now, and everyone goes to every show.
Hmm.
So I think like when you see the same like 20 people coming every time, the Black Path guys, the people running the show, can kind of tell those people like, hey, this show's going to be crazy. It's going to sell out. Like, keep an eye on everyone. So not
Yeah.
only are there the people like running the show, doing the whole thing, but there's also little like like little soldiers inside, you know, like
Sure.
kind of watching over
Yeah, like
everything.
show ambassadors or something.
Exactly. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. And
Which
it's
I
cool.
think
Like
every show should have. Sorry to cut
I
you off,
agree.
but
No,
like
yeah, definitely.
sometimes like when I'm filming a show and something's happening, I'm like, is like I know who should be stepping in, but I feel like this
Hmm.
person might be like at the front, like, doing admin stuff for the show or like maybe not even
Yeah.
watching the band, but like someone's hanging from the roof because their foot got stuck on a hook and like
Yeah.
someone needs to get them off and like I don't know. But
No,
it is
exactly.
it is cool that if at least from the sounds of it, it's very community like oriented and people like pick up the slack where it's needed.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, it really is. And I mean, that was even something like I started going to shows when I was like 17, 18. I don't remember exactly. I was like fresh out of high school, kind of leaving high school era, you know, time period is weird. But I remember like me and my friends, we were kind of the only like girl group that was at shows for a minute. And
Mm.
there were other girls too, but we were like the young like group of girls and we all stuck together. And I remember Dustin, the guy who runs Black Path, he comes up to us at one show and he's like, "You and your friends are really cool. Keep coming around." And then we did. And then eventually like I was in the group chats of like, yo, we're announcing this show soon. Help us push it. And then my little brother and little sister started coming to shows with me, and I kind of grandfathered them in the same way. And I was like, hey, like you see something going down, you end it. Let's push the show. Let's, you know, just be nice, be a good person, don't start shit.
Mm.
And there's just a lot of that's happening. And I feel like with every new generation that comes in, it's kind of the same thing. Like, hey, we've kept this alive for a good 5, 6 years. Let's keep it going, you know?
Yeah. Cuz yeah, you're trying to like foster these good things and that's
Hmm.
there's like certain things that I feel like every scene needs as far as like having it like survive but then thrive secondly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's like you need the person who's booking the local shows, who's like taking those tour packages when they're coming through. Obviously
Mhm.
there's going to be the big dogs who handle the fucking like Black Dahlia murders and like all that stuff. But
Yeah.
when it's like death metal band from Boston, it's like, "Oh, I know that's going to go to Logan and Calgary or whatever."
Mhm.
Um, I think you need to have some hard moshers. You need to have people that are going to be like, yo, that show is crazy. Do you see that guy do this during this song?
Mhm.
So you have to have people who are going to be invested in like the actual participation of, the all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then like I think you need to have someone documenting, which is what we do on the video side, but like
Mhm.
that could be through photos, it could be video, it could like be like a zine or something. I just feel like now that, we're in this post-pandemic era, I feel like it's scenes are like having this like restart kind of like era, and I feel like
Definitely.
like whether you're a person that has some creative bone in their body and can, document this next chapter for your scene, I think that's like very, very important. It doesn't need to be the top of the line Hey 5 6 quality or anything like that. I
Mhm.
think just the process of doing it, like people will like we're gonna all be sitting and talking about this in 10 years as far as how the 2020s like really changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not even hardcore, but just like our scene in cities in general.
I think that's something that I really, really love about Vegas, and I miss it when I go other city or when I go to other cities too. You mentioned like moshing and stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
in Vegas, everyone shows up, everyone shows out. Like every show, everyone tries to make it like a fucking banger because we want people to keep coming back because
Right.
we've worked so hard to, like you said, like we're at a point where the scene is surviving, and now we want it to keep thriving. And we also have like some really cool people that document every single show. Like there's this girl, her name is Danny. She shoots amazing photographs. Like I don't understand why she isn't shooting like huge tours and stuff because her work is just so good, and she's somehow makes it to every show, gets the most like insane photos like I've ever seen. And it's just little things like that I think go so far. And I think that's something that is really like kind of lighting the spark with Vegas right now is things like that, like videos of people dancing, really cool photos, really cool videos, just period of the shit that's going on. I mean, even you saw, and you're all the way in Canada.
Yeah.
Like a couple years ago, that wouldn't have been a thing, and it's really cool now that it's starting to kind of pick up and catch fire.
Yeah, like I think when you see a gap that you feel like should be filled in your scene, I think you should just like it. Hardcore to me is not a what's the right word I want to use here? It's an action first type of genre. It's not about like let me ask permission to be able to do because I feel like all the people that if there was this weird hierarchy of like gatekeeping and you need to ask certain things, like a lot of people wouldn't have picked up that camera, wouldn't have picked up that guitar or done different things.
Exactly.
And we would be, in my opinion, on a way worse timeline. Like, obviously, there are certain things where you need to be self-aware. You need to know, like, hey, maybe I've overstepped or I've done different things. But I feel like the majority of the time, like, especially in, like, more scenes that don't have it handed to them, like, Vegas or, Western Canada, like, I think people and bands are just going to be, like, over the moon excited that, like, someone cared enough just to, do something other than just be in the room, And I feel like that's just taking it a step further. I was going to ask what Danny's handle was so I could just peep the photos.
It's at Danielle Riot with 2 T's.
Oh, I think I followed Danielle. Oh yeah, I've been following Danielle for a minute.
Dude, yeah, her work is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do, because I try as scoped exposure. Like I ride for a lot of archivists, photographers, and yeah. So shout out to Danielle. Keep snapping those pics. So we talked a little bit about the scene, but I want to talk Roman Candle. So talk to me about the origin of that band. Is this like your first band doing vocals, or just being in a band in general? Is this like the 10th one and you've lost track of how many bands you've been in? Talk to me about where on that spectrum you are.
This is my second band. I was in a band called So Without, that was similar to Roman Candle, kind of the screamo hardcore adjacent type stuff. And So Without kind of fell off for a little bit. And then Jonas, our guitarist in Roman Candle, was doing bass and So Without for a little bit. And then him and I just kind of split off and started Roman Candle.
Got you. I think I remember you mentioning Jonas, and I was like, is this the 4th Jonas brother that it plays in bands that I do not know about?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. It's been confirmed.
Yeah.
I hope that
Jonas brother.
Yeah, I hope he gets teased about that time and time again.
I don't think he does, but I'm gonna start doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. You
just come in playing some camp rock shit.
Yeah, he would love that.
Okay, that's good.
He would really love that.
Okay, so obviously with the majority of projects that are popping right now, most of the time people are like, yeah, we didn't expect people to give a fuck about it, or we didn't expect to like have the opportunities that are coming our way now. But there is a degree of like, I think we might have something here. I think we could play some shows. I think you said in one of your podcasts, your first show was like a very late addition? Like you jumped on a show like last minute as your first show, or am I confusing one of those things?
We didn't. No, that was our second show. That
Okay,
was
second show
yeah,
was
second show. Second show we got asked like 3 days before the show to be on it. And that was with opened for Pianos Become the Teeth and Drums Dream, which was
right.
insane.
Mm-hmm.
Our first show was my friend Aiden. It was his first show he ever booked. And we played with this band called Blind Fortune from Reno, San Diego. They're like kind of both
Yeah.
cities, but yeah.
Okay, so like start off playing a couple shows. At what point were you like, oh, people are starting to notice us? Or because something that really blew my mind a little bit, because I think there were like a couple times like I would see some videos and here and there, but I saw that it was like a DIY show and you guys are playing in like
I don't know what you're talking
a
about.
skate park or like a pool, like an emptied pool
Yeah,
or some
it was
some
an
shit.
empty pool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yeah, this is cool. And I'm like, wow, there's a lot of people sharing this. But
Yeah.
the moment that, at least for me, I was like, oh, like the right people are paying attention to this band is when I heard Joe Hardcore talk about it on the This Is Hardcore podcast. And I was like, oh, this hit Mr. Joe Hardcore. So it's like, so was that more so viral moment like a similar thing, or was there something even before that where you felt that something's happening?
I think the viral moment helped a lot. Like that really I don't know, it kind of really, what's the word? Like I guess kind of like got people listening to us because it wasn't just one video that went viral. There was like 10 videos that went viral from that night. And I posted one, our drummer posted one, a couple of my friends posted some, and then I saw like these crazy you know Nedarb, like the producer. He produced for like Little Peep
Oh,
and
okay.
like shit like that. He's like big into that scene. He reposted it and started talking about us, and then it was Joe Hardcore. So that was insane. Like how crazy or how much that video popped off. But I think before that we were kind of gaining some traction, at least on a local level, just because I think honestly, I hate to even say this, but I think it's because we're like female fronted hardcore band. Because we're like the only band like that in Vegas. So I think, and because we're not just strictly hardcore, we were gaining a lot of attention from like the other smaller pockets in Vegas, like the younger kids and like the punk kids. And it's cool because we were able to fit on like any show.
Right.
And then, so before we played that show at a pool, we played the show for these people who used to run this event called For the Culture. And there's a couple videos of it, but that show was insane. There was like probably more people there than there was at that pool. And then we played at that pool a couple weeks, and it was all the same kids that went to that For the Culture show there. And it was literally like a line like wrapped around like the block to get into this house show. And everyone in the line was like, dude, I'm so excited to hear Roman Candle. And like my girlfriend came up and told me like, yo, those kids are talking about your band. And I think that was like the most surreal moment for me, was when like there's a line wrapped outside of a house show to get in, and they're like, I'm here to see this band, and it was my band, and that was insane. And then it was that night where that video of us kind of just took off.
Okay, so it was almost like a dope show a few weeks earlier helped lay up the slam dunk.
I think
of
so.
That. Oh,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And it's interesting because like obviously you guys are a really great band and you know play well, but like it's so mind-boggling to me when it's like this is a phone video, and like live set phone videos or stories that shows have come a long way, and especially even just in the last 5 years, like the audio is good, you can actually hear what's going on, but especially at a house show, I'm not expecting it to be like the most crystal clear thing. I think the main one that I remember seeing is like behind the you guys, so it's like the audio, the sound's going the other way and then bouncing back, so it's not even like trying to stand in, you know, it's not the most opportune spot. I don't know what your thoughts are on, you know, because sometimes like the why behind something going viral is like there is an element of luck, you know, it could just be the algorithm on the right day, but like
Definitely.
how much of what percentage would you break it down as like why that video went viral, where the two factors are you as a band and the space and the vibe of the show and the people there in general? Like, is it a 50-50 or does one swing more the other?
I think it's more the vibe. I think that, like, I mean, from my experience, at least, because I do design on, like, as my job. Whenever I post something that goes viral, it's something that I never expected to go
Right.
viral. It's like this: I spent like 5 minutes on this design. Why does it have 30,000 likes? Or like,
Right.
it took me 5 minutes to make this reel. Why is it popping off? And I think that always comes down to like the vibe of it. It doesn't matter how good something is, especially with TikTok. Like, that kind of changed everything for like, I don't know, just social media in general. I think it's just, if something has the right vibe and it's different and you use the right hashtags and, like you said, post it at the right time, I think it's just a little kind of secret recipe and things just kind of, just goes off.
Yeah. And sometimes all it takes is one bigger account or person to share it, and then it's just off to the fucking races.
That's what happened with us. It was I didn't even post it on Twitter. Bryson, our drummer, posted it on Twitter, and then it was Nedarb who shared it, and then a couple, like Joe Hardcore and a couple other, Jeremy Bolm too from Touche Amore. Like, I think those three people seeing that just like really changed.
That was
a lot
the
of things for us.
Triforce, and then
it was yeah, and that's like, I can't imagine like those three people even having a conversation or being in the same room.
Right.
Like, Joe Hardcore, Jeremy Bolm, and fucking Nedarb. Like, I cannot imagine them being like the triad for things going viral. But it was crazy.
Yeah, but I totally agree. Like, I have a friend, shout out to Dom. He runs a tea company called Pitch Black North up here. And he's very much on like his TikTok and like the social media shit. Like, his whole thing with his company is like it's a satanic tea company. So he wears like corpse paint and like, just like he's been kicked off the platform multiple times, but just because he's being an absolute goofball, and like it's just a bunch of really triggered white Christian moms. But he and I talk all the time, and he's like, Spencer, you are like, because we've filmed 500 different bands over the past 6 years. We're going to be like 250 episodes deep. Like, we have a lot of content. He's like, bro, you are sitting on like so many golden nuggets that you don't even. I'm like, yeah. He's like, no. And I like, just, this is a full-time job on top of like, but doesn't pay the bills kind of thing. I haven't like been able to fully like turn it into like, oh, this is the thing I can do full-time, and it's not going to just put me in a hole. But it is those things that I don't expect. So I'm trying to like make space for like doing more like, okay, that's a funny thing that someone said from a set, and I'm going to pull that. And there's a straight edge vegan band from out in Toronto, and I filmed them for the first time.
I saw that.
Yeah. Okay. So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So for those that don't, it was just a video of my good friend Mike from Cold Shoulder and Street Justice, and it was like their last song, and he's just like, "Go vegan, come on, man! I'm literally stronger than all of you. Just fucking do it." And everyone's laughing. It's like clearly a joke, and then he follows it up with the like demeaning, like, meat eater, like, where's my protein? And I was like, I watched it back every single time. I'm like, I gotta turn this into a reel. And I like, and I have a marketing background. I know like there's different things that I can do to like make it more likely to pop. But in scoped exposure history, nothing has popped that much ever. And like, I was like looking at like the last thing. I was like, the last thing that went this crazy was when Jay from Mindforce came on the podcast and had his like fully like Jayism of, I feel like that man just like, he could just talk in this very beautiful way about hardcore and moshing, and you're just like, wow, I've never thought about it that way. But that was like a quarter of what this, and it's still going, and it's not even like, it's maybe a week old. So I don't know if it started getting to a point where like this is not hitting just hardcore people's radars. This is like just out in the ether now. So I don't know if like that was like if people were commenting on the on your guys' video that weren't even involved in hardcore. Were there?
That's
did you feel
most
like
of it. Yeah.
You felt like it shot out of the stratosphere?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And I think
were you getting some weird comments?
You know, I can't remember. I think I got a couple comments on my vocals, just people not getting it. I mean, I'm literally just screaming. I don't expect everyone to, but I think that was it. It wasn't anything crazy. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Like those little tiny bites is like everything on social media right now, and you never know what's going to gain traction. But I think if you just like document everything, you know. And another thing too that helps with social media, unfortunately, is like being consistent. And if you post like every single day on TikTok or Instagram, like your shit is bound to go viral.
Yeah.
Like it's just going to happen. And I think that's another thing that people don't really realize is it's just like it's an algorithm. It's like it doesn't matter how good the content is or what it is or how funny it is. It's if you're feeding into it, it's going to reward you, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing too that I don't know helps anyone grow.
Yeah, it is and I'm sure you can attest to this as being, you know, not only a musician but also an artist. And you're like, I don't want to just be like feeding the beast all the time, but I feel like I kind of have to because if I miss one day, then shit's gonna be fucked for the rest of the week. I feel like I get trapped in that cycle all the time. But I have tried to allow myself not to be at the mercy of it and be like it was very hard for me to be like, I got to take a month off the podcast because I'm literally moving across the country and I have like, I'm not going to be like trying to record an episode and then like posting it while I'm at the gas. Like I've already done that so many times. And I'm like, it doesn't feel, it feels, it's very hard as a creative to actually like give yourself time to breathe and give yourself a break.
It's tough. I just did that recently with Instagram. When we went on our little run in California, like a week and a half ago, I didn't post on Instagram at all. And it like fucked me over. Like I haven't been able to get my engagement back up. And it sucks because it's such a necessary evil because it's how you grow in this day and age. And it's how I make my money. It's how I pay my rent. And it's something like I don't want to feed into it, but it's kind of like you kind of have to, you know?
But when you are on tour and you weren't checking your phone all the time, well, checking Instagram at the very least, was that freeing or were you still like checking band stuff? So it wasn't like
I was still checking band stuff. It wasn't my personal. I still run the band Instagram. I wasn't checking my personal Instagram or my emails or anything like that. But it was still in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
You know, I can't ever shut that off. Which I mean, that's just kind of part of being a freelancer.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, sometimes I think about like, okay, there is going to be a dip, but if I just keep staying the course, I will either push through it or it will actually like deter me more and then I'll have to take a longer break down the line.
Yeah.
So
that's valid. Burnout is so real. Like it's such a thing. And it's, I mean, when I first was trying to grow my like design page, I posted on Instagram almost every single day for like a year. And I was like constantly like creating new content and making a design, 1 to 4 designs every day just to get ready to post them, not even counting like the client work I was working on. And you know, it's the same thing with the band stuff. Like I'm constantly thinking like, what can I share today just so people don't fucking forget about us? Because that's unfortunately that's just how it works, you know? Yeah. And it's important to take some time off, but at the same time it's really hard to convince yourself to do so when you work so hard to get it consistent and then you're at a place where like you're constantly growing and then a couple of days off just kind of brings you right back down here, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel it.
Yeah. And I don't know, sometimes when I'm trying to balance multiple fests that we've covered, the podcast, trying to add other things in as far as like, oh, like maybe I should have someone like, to me, like I've felt very fortunate to have like people in my circle. So shout out to Jordan, who's producing this show right now. People like him and other people that come into the mix who can kind of like help alleviate and
Yeah.
actually make things a little bit more realistic. But
Hmm.
when you're doing stuff solo, like it's not like doing something like that is not for everyone, nor should it. But it feels like there's so many people trying to get after it, and it's like kind of a test in a way of like,
Yeah.
are you actually gonna stick? Like, is this gonna be a hobby, or are you gonna push through? Because a lot of people, they're for it to be like sustainable, sometimes takes like a decade,
Yeah. It's
and I think about
crazy.
that all the time.
Hmm. It's hard. I think that I personally am super lucky with how quick I was able to start freelancing and doing design. Like it just really something clicked. I think you mentioned like people getting involved in hardcore and doing, something like just to add other than going to shows. And I started making flyers. Like that was the first thing
Oh,
I did
okay. So
was
that
just
was
for
your
shows.
entry.
That was
Okay.
kind of like my into it. And then from there, I saw that there was a lack of like good album art and flyers, and just it was only it was like that was like a second thought to everything, even though it's the first thing people see when they're announcing a show or when they're announcing their music, like that the visual side is more important than people think, but people didn't think about that, and I think I was super lucky to kind of just find myself in this niche where people weren't thinking about it, and I could just kind of be like, well, hey, I know how to do that, let's work together.
Yeah.
um and yeah, I got super lucky with that. So I think that really like just kind of helped me get on the freelance train a lot faster.
Yeah. I
But
want to
it's
go
tough.
back. I want to go back to what I was saying earlier, as far as like in my opinion, the necessary things for a scene to survive and then thrive.
Hmm.
Having someone who makes dope posters for your shows is so important. Like,
Dude, it is.
like
It
you could
is.
be literally on the opposite side of the country, see a show poster, and you're like, that's that like literally that same
Hmm.
lineup like got announced from someone else, but that poster is way cooler, and it like kind of like sparks this conversation of like, okay, who's doing
Hmm.
that, and or certain people have different styles, so that's
Yeah.
100%, yeah. So I want to add that into the core. I'll call it the core four: booking, moshers, um, designers for show posters, and documenters. That's the core
Definitely.
four. Um, and that's honestly a really great way into talking about that side of your story. So you started seeing, was it like a lack of posters, or like no one had the Adobe license? Like,
It wasn't like I guess it wasn't a lack. It was just like with Black Path, it was just sorry, I feel like Dustin's gonna listen to this. Dustin, I like your posters, but it's just the same template all the time, and it's just because it's like he's doing so many shows. Like I don't think he has time to sit and think about, oh, how do I make this flyer look dope,
right.
And it was just like one by one, and then like headliner logo, and then the co-headliner logo, and then local band logo, and then fun color scheme, and that was it. And you
Mhm.
could see a Black Path flyer from like a mile away. Same thing with most of the other promoters, and I think that kind of adding that little, making things a little different, kind of brings in a different crowd in a way. Like there's a
Okay.
lot of kids in Vegas who they'll see a Black Path flyer and be like, "Oh, that's a Black Path show. I don't need to go to that." They won't even see who's on the lineup. And then, if you
Yeah.
change up if you change up what the flyer looks like sometimes, not every time, but sometimes, then I think that'll kind of cap catch the eye of other people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a
No, no,
second, but
you're right on the money. Like,
yeah.
and again, it's like everyone's got their own preferences of how they want to do things. Something very similar, and especially relevant to where I'm at now. There's a lot of different promoters in Toronto, but the day before, uh, the day of us arriving here, the day after was Speed's first time in Canada, not let alone
Oh, that's
like playing
cool.
in Toronto. And
Hmm.
all of those guys except for their drummer have been on the podcast. I've been able to connect with them a lot. So I was like, there's no way in heck that I'm missing that. But that show is put on by Not Dead Yet, and they've done a plethora of other shows. And I've been able to talk to some of those cats and film other shows that they've done. But all of their shows are like, it's the same kind of like text template, and then they just
Mhm.
like change the picture and change the info as far as the venue.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
stylistically, yeah, it's all cohesive, but like sometimes I'm like, would like sometimes I see an image of the band, I'm like, this doesn't even look like a hardcore band, but I know it's hardcore people playing this show. So it's kind of this
Yeah.
strange disconnect. But I do really appreciate when there are people like yourself who, because some bands like won't post like like l- they will they'll post really well done show posters even for one date if it's done
Mhm.
really awesome. Sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
here's the tour poster. That's the one, you should check
I
out.
won't post a bad flyer on my band's page. Like, if the flyer's bad
Right.
and we're
Yes.
playing it, no, I'm literally just gonna make another poster because, like, it's a bad look on me. Like, everyone who looks at the band page, I'm tagged in everything. A lot of people, like, associate me with the band and me as a designer. I do everything for the band, so if I post something,
Oh.
yeah, if I post something that is bad, it's a bad look on me.
So you
And
so you're worried about
sorry.
getting the DM being like, "Did you use Comic Sans for this
Yeah, literally, like,
propaganda
"Did
show?"
you make this?" Yeah, and a lot of my design friends, like, follow the band page too, so I'm so cautious of what I post
Mm.
because it's just it's tough.
Yeah, I didn't think about that as far as
Mhm,
having a stylistic pressure, because like, you're not gonna have control of if someone else is booking a tour for you and it's someone in uh Ohio that's booking the show. Is like, man, I really want to just boot up Photoshop right now and just like, you know,
yeah,
make my own poster for this show because the lineup's awesome, but
mhm,
what went wrong with this
yeah.
poster? But
No, if I have the time, I definitely will just make something completely different or edit the existing one. I did that recently
mm,
just to kinda make it match our aesthetic a little more just because that shit's important, you know?
yeah. So just to play devil's advocate, if
Mhm.
you were on the receiving end where you designed something and a band did something like that,
I would be furious.
okay,
Yeah. Um, but, like, I always ask,
okay,
Like, if someone designs a flyer and I don't like it, I'm always like, "Hey, you mind if I, like, make something too?" Just because I do the design for the band, But, if I design something and someone were to, like, just I mean, I guess it depends. If it's cooler than what I made, then I'll definitely post it, but
right,
if it's worse, I'm gonna be like, "What the fuck? Why did I waste my time if you're not even gonna post it?"
yeah.
So, yeah, definitely, I think I am a little hypocritical with it, but I kinda have to be a little bit.
Well, I think you have a standard that I think a lot of, because like we play hardcore music and there's people that are just like they glorify shittiness to a degree, and that could be
Yeah.
like like how a record sounds to like, how the poster looks.
Mhm.
But some people just have like higher standards and at the end of
Yeah.
the day, you're both promoting the show, So,
Exactly.
but I
Yeah.
understand where people are coming from as far as like that's their artwork, but I don't know. Quality of
Yeah.
artwork is obviously subjective, right? So,
Yeah. No,
I
definitely, and I haven't been in a situation where, I've, like, just completely made something new and, like, pissed someone off. Usually people are down with it because I have a big following, so if I share it too on my, like, design page, it kinda helps the show out a little bit. Not
right.
to be cocky, but I mean, it's just, like, kind of a given sometimes,
Well,
but
no,
if I
you have eyes on an
Yeah,
account. Yeah, of
exactly.
course.
And if I'm ever in the situation where I hurt someone's feelings though, or if I know like a designer whose work I don't really like is gonna make it, I'll just reach out to them, be like,
Yeah.
hey, let's collab on this and just kind of try to make it work for everyone.
Yeah.
But
And
I think I do have high standards with all that stuff.
yeah. And that's totally fine. Like there are like there's a band from up here called Trench, and their whole they have a thing where their whole like almost all of their pieces of merch are like green. Green is their color. So they have like black shirts but with green. Like I've never seen an orange or a red or like they stick to that.
Uh-huh.
Like when they play live, hey, can we only get green lights on stage? When they have like tour posters where they're supporting another band, there's always like a green tinge on it.
That's
And it's just
cool.
like that's their thing and I think it's totally fine to go with that, but I can't imagine someone at New Damage is mad because they hired a designer and then they added a green filter. Now, like, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's like if a band has a certain standard, like either you're gonna meet that and it's gonna be good, or like you were saying, like I think reaching out is really just the biggest thing of like, hey, like let's
Yeah.
work together on this versus like I'm just gonna like plow over you or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I don't want to step on anyone's toes or make any other designer or artist feel bad because I mean, I've been in that situation too,
Right.
and it sucks. So I'd rather just try to collaborate with someone and make it something that we're both happy with. If there's time to do it, sometimes there's not always time
Yeah.
to make it work. Actually, we played a show at the Hideout in California, and one of the members of the band Lagrimas, they made a flyer, and it was a cool flyer. It was super like old school cut paste collage type thing, but it just wasn't exactly like the Roman candle aesthetic.
Hmm.
So I was just like, hey, do you mind if I edit this? And they were like, yeah, go ahead. So I just threw a couple filters and textures on it, and we both had something we were happy with.
Hmm. Yeah, like I think that there are people that it is a smart move to think about how you know your Instagram or whatever is going to be curated, and so that's going to be a combination of the photos that are being taken. But even then, some people are like, there are some bands that only post black and white photos, and even if
Yeah.
someone gives them like colored photos, they're like black
Hmm.
and white filter and send it out. That could feel like, oh, now you're stepping because I only shoot in color, but like
Yeah.
I think there should be more upfront, hey, we do things a little bit differently. How can we do that? And like being collaborative versus being like,
Hmm.
why are you stepping? Why are you trying to cause a thing? So
No, exactly. Yeah. I
yeah.
think people just need to be more, they just need to communicate more.
Yeah.
Just in general life. I think it takes 2 seconds to be like, hey, I'm going to post this and I'm going to change it a little bit. Is that cool?
Yeah.
And if someone were to hit me with that, I'd be like, yeah, I don't care what you do. But,
Mhm.
I think it's just, if you do it without asking, you kind of come off as like a douchebag. And that sucks.
Yeah. Like with us, like we filmed so many bands that like to me, I look at like the stuff that I'm doing as a way to help support fests, bands, other booking people where they can just like like. But it's weird. I would see like little tour announcements or like show announcement go up with our footage, but
Hmm.
like, I just watermark everything, not in a sense of like letting people know, but just like, I don't know, it's just something different that I don't see a lot of other people who film shows do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would have totally given you the raw footage to edit this video if you just asked, but
Yeah.
no one did. So I
Exactly.
guess
That's the
it's on
thing.
there. So
Yeah, I wish people should just talk more. I don't know. It would help out just like the community as a whole too if people were just like, "Hey, I like this. Can I use this?" You
yeah.
know?
Yeah. And at the same time, like to what you said, like sometimes there isn't time to go through all those extra
Hmm.
processes. So I think with the amount of my plate, sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of glad that I didn't have to take that extra hour of like
Yeah.
transferring you gigabytes of footage and all that bullshit. But
No, for
yeah,
sure.
I think you're right. Communication, just talk more,
Yeah,
especially in
just
this scene. Some
yeah.
beefs start over like the smallest things that is like you could
Oh,
have
I
just had a conversation with me.
know. Yeah,
Um,
I
so
agree.
um, I something I heard on a podcast that I found really interesting is you're an illustrator, but you can't draw.
I'm not an illustrator.
Oh, you're not an. Oh, sorry. You're a
No. Yeah.
designer, not
I'm
an
a designer, but I
illustrator.
can't draw. Yes,
Got you.
yeah. Um, that is a thing. I wish it wasn't. I wish I knew how to draw. I've tried, but I'm just not good at it. Um, yeah, there's a couple designers that I know that are, and there are some illustrators I know who are great at drawing, but
Hmm.
they lack the like design side of things. And there's a lot of designers that can't draw for shit.
That's so wild. Like,
Yeah.
but I love that honestly because I'm a firm believer, especially on the creative side, that's like it like there's a lot of people who are like you should be able to show your work and all that. It's like if I should just show you how I got to something. I don't need to show you what program I use. I don't need to tell you how many hours it took me to do this.
Yeah.
I don't need to do all that. Like the people that know can maybe sort it out, and I'm open to like telling people like my
Hmm.
process and different things because I want to help people. But like I love the idea that people can just like start a creative thing, have and have no piece of paper behind their name, but like if their shit is good, people will collectively decide it's good and then,
Yeah. I mean,
rise to
that's
the top.
not like designers not being able to draw. That's like it's been a thing. Like in the 90s there were designers like Chris Ashworth and David Carson, like designers who really kicked off the whole like collaging and mixed media type stuff.
Mm.
It's not a new thing. I think it's just, there's different creative mediums, and a lot of people think that it's just a given that if you're a designer you know how to do anything like artsy, like, oh,
Sure.
you should be able to draw and paint and do all that, when in reality they're like very different things, and art as a whole kind of all meshes together. It kind of all goes hand in hand. But yeah, I don't know. I think I lost my train of thought. But yes. Sorry.
No, that's
I
fine.
got a little brain fog today. But yeah, I don't know. I think
Is there different things in your like, are there different things when it comes to illustrating that come super naturally to you and other things that you're like really had to like practice a lot to actually like build up that discipline?
yeah, so with design, I used to do photography actually.
Okay.
So I already had like a basic idea of like the rule of thirds and composition and levels and colors and blah blah blah. Design came super naturally to me, especially like already knowing how to use Photoshop. The stuff that didn't come naturally was the illustration side of it. It was like, how
Mm,
do I include, like, I can make cool shit with pictures and I can edit them different ways, and I can cut and paste, and it's kind of what I do is kind of just a lot of like destroying something that already exists and making it my own.
mm,
And making things from scratch, I think, is where I kind of fall short as a designer a lot of the times.
So if a band or you wanted to do something where you had to make something from scratch, whether it was uh, like I don't know, like some icons just to play really, really
Yes.
easy, that would be like,
Uh-huh.
maybe I could like just grab some icons online at least for this because it can serve that purpose, but it's like that's not where I'm not going to get nerdy and spend all my time on it.
Exactly. Actually, we just ran into that because I wanted to do a super like old school Vegas kind of vibe for like a summer merch design we're working on, and I wanted like a little pinup cowgirl in it. But I didn't
Mm,
want to just rip off some like tattoo artist work because that's not like what I'm about. And there's no way to change an existing piece of art like that and make it my own.
right.
Like there's some things where it's like I can't take someone's drawing and make it something else. I can take old magazine clippings all day, that no one's looked at in decades, and I can make it into something cool, but stuff like that I can't. So I was asking everyone. I was like, yo, who knows how to draw that can make me a fucking little cowgirl illustration in like an hour or two? And no one could. And I ended up hitting up this tattoo artist and just being like, hey, how much for this? Like, let's figure it out.
Mhm.
And most people are cool with that.
Yeah.
But the rest of the design was all like my work. Like I actually ended up drawing like these little dice and kind of writing like Roman candle on them and flipping them different ways. I'll send it to you so you
Oh,
can kind
okay.
of see what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's stuff like that I'm really bad at.
Yeah. No, but I think like I can understand the the uh the misunderstanding of like, oh, you work in this program, so you should be able to do anything that touches that with like a 10-foot pole. Like
Yeah.
I literally was on the phone with a friend of mine who's booking a show in Toronto. Is like 10 bands for $10, kind of the vibe. And he was like,
Hmm.
I know that you could do like your whole, filming the bands and all things, but like you guys want to do like your first ever live stream and we could do it on Twitch. And I was just like, I don't have the gear to do that.
Yeah,
And I don't even have the
exactly.
knowledge to do that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And like sometimes that there are certain times, at least and I don't know how you feel. Like I'm sure you feel a similar way where it's like I want to make more time to be able to expand my knowledge in this, in what I do like every single day. But sometimes, and this goes back to our social media discussion of like I just need to do this, and then it doesn't create the time to actually like broaden your horizons a little bit. Is
Exactly.
that the same?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks. Like, I constantly want to learn new things and try new techniques and stuff. But when you have like what you know, and that's how you make your money, it's really hard to branch out and to make the time to branch out. Like,
Right.
I mean, you do video work. I'm sure there are people who shoot like super analog VHS type stuff. And if someone were to hit you up and be like, "Hey, let's do this," you'd be like, "What the fuck? I don't do that." It's the same with design.
Yeah.
Like it's the same thing. Like I do kind of analogy type stuff. And if someone were to hit me up and ask me to make like some kind of like this, the little black path thing, this little illustration, I did
Mhm.
the design for this. I didn't do that illustration
Yeah.
because I don't. That's just not what I do. And it's I mean, it's just because you have a computer or like a camera, it
Mhm.
doesn't mean you know how to do everything with the computer and camera. There's so many weird pockets of creativity, and it's so hard to do all of them as much as you want to. You
Yeah.
know, it's impossible.
Yeah. Like I think the beauty of niches, of like people having like not even like a genre like niche, but it's like I only do traditional, like something that if I could create this person, or this person already exists, I would purchase 151 all the original Pokemon if they were done in the traditional American like style,
Yeah.
but the sprite like from the original like blue, red, and yellow games. Like the
Oh,
really
uh-huh.
distorted ones, but like you would essentially just trace it. Like I've had that idea for years, and I don't like I have the only use of the pens and pencils that I can see here in front of me are like to jot down notes for all like my,
Same.
to-dos, or like my
Yeah.
video stuff. Like I wish I could do that, but like even if I just had a dedicated week, I know that that is not my thing. But,
Exactly. Yeah,
you
everyone
know,
has their thing, you know?
yeah. But
Everyone has a thing that they like to do.
yeah. But I love finding those people that like I started following someone that takes Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and like he takes the same 6 or 7 ones and he stacks them on top of each other, but he like cuts out different pieces. So then there's like an actual like 3D effect where like things are
Oh, that's
popping out and you're
cool.
kind of like looking into the card. And I was like,
Yeah.
man, that is a beyond niche thing of
Yeah.
like 3D Yu-Gi-Oh cards, but like he's making a killing. Like his commissions are like closed until like next year. I'm like, holy
That's
fuck.
crazy.
So
That's really cool. I saw this designer who does, well, they're not designer, they're a painter, but they make, kind of like 3D art on canvases where like it's like this weird abstract kind of wavy type thing, and it's like this far off the canvas.
mm,
It's really hard to explain, but it's like dimensional, you know? But they paint it to look like something I would make
mm,
on Photoshop. And like that's super niche. Their commissions is also closed, but I don't know if they can draw a little pinup girl, you
hmm
know? Just
yeah,
like I can.
yeah,
I think there's just everyone has their thing and what they like to do, and even if you want to do it, it still takes years to get that skill, you know. And everyone, like I'm sure you get it. You put time into honing in on what you like to do.
yeah, yeah. There's always going to be certain things on the music side where it's like we need band merch designs, we need show poster designs. If you can have someone in
Yeah.
house to do the majority of those things, like that's a dream.
Yeah, dude, we're super lucky with Roman Candle because our guitarist also is he has a studio. So he records music and then I do all the
Right.
art, and then it's just we do pretty much like everything in house, and it's great.
That's a perfect recipe for things to go well. Like
Yeah.
I have a side project that dropped our demo this year, and it's kind of a similar thing. We have our drummer, he recorded our demo, and everyone's like,
Hmm.
"This sounds so good." It's like I think this is his like first full like heavy band, but he did a great job.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
shout out to
What
Brooke.
is your band called?
So that band is called Admission of Guilt. We're kind of like a beatdown band, I would say.
Nice. Uh-huh.
Well, it's definitely a beatdown band, but I was trying to be like, is it a combo of anything else? But it's just that. And then I also play in a band called Endgame, and we're like
Oh,
more
cool. Okay.
thrash crossover. So,
That's cool. I've heard of you guys.
oh yeah,
That's sick. I want to listen to the new band though. You should send me a link.
okay, I will. Endgame has new music too on the way, and
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
uh, just wondering when this podcast might drop. I'll just say it here. I'm moving from
Okay.
guitar to vocals in that band, so we haven't put out music
Nice.
in a long time. So there's a lot of things, but I will send you the other music because I remember on the podcast I was listening to you, you're like, yeah, I fuck with some beatdown. I'm like, okay.
Dude, I love
So
beatdown. I fucking love that shit. Like, I don't care how corny it is. I love seeing people like beat each other up.
it's the
I
best
love
thing in the
like a
world.
fucking slow, nasty riff. Like, oh my god, it's so good.
I think there's a part in your program set where you're playing a new song and you're like, same part but slower, and then you just like went into this like huge
Yeah.
breakdown. I was like, damn, okay. So
Yeah, that's a new song. We haven't dropped it yet, but I'm really excited too.
yeah. So I
Mhm.
feel like something I said at kind of the beginning of this episode, and I know that we're the we moved this podcast around, but we just put out a podcast with Mark, who plays in this band called Masanera, who played New Friends
Oh, uh-huh.
the last couple of years, and I know that you guys are doing that this year. So hopefully I'll
Mhm.
be seeing you
Oh,
in
that'd be cool.
in person because I'm out here. But the thing that we were talking a lot about was like kind of that bridge between the screamo and the hardcore kind of world, and I
Mhm.
feel like at least for listening to you guys, like there's clear like more melodic like screamo stuff, but there's like definitely some like this is just straight up hardcore. There's
Yeah.
like so is that intentional when it comes to the writing for Roman Candle, or is there
Yes.
like certain times where it's like how do we take both of these things and throw them together?
I think it is intentional because at the end of the day, like as much as I love screamo as a genre, like I am a hardcore kid. I like hardcore music. We are a hardcore band, you know? We definitely have screamo influences and I think it's just a lot of that is literally because of my vocal style too.
Hmm.
But like I don't want to identify ever as just a screamo band, you know, or just like a post-hardcore band. Like I just want to be a hardcore band.
Yeah.
And like I said in Vegas, like, you know, scene is small, we all go to hardcore shows. We are the softest band like in Vegas in terms of hardcore.
Hmm.
And so I don't know, maybe it was intentional in the sense that like we knew we wanted some like parts people could dance to because that's really important to us. But I don't think we ever were like, how are we going to bridge like the screamo scene and like the hardcore scene? Because I think it's just something that it's just kind of who we are, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, totally. And
Yeah.
I think that yeah, just being like going to hardcore shows and being like, yeah, like there might be some influence of this other stuff that maybe isn't madball hardcore, but like
Hmm.
it it still is like I feel like even when hardcore bands go out and write a different kind of music, like you look at a band like Koyo, all members of
Hmm.
that band were like playing in typecast, like full metalcore mutant breakdown music. But then they
Yeah.
started this like kind of like pop punk band, but it still has that hardcore through line. Um,
Hmm.
so I think that yeah, like there are a lot of bands in the screamo scene that like musically like seeing it live it was really really cool, but it's like not something I'm gonna like throw on. But I feel
Hmm.
like you guys have that nice blend. Like I would show Roman Candle to someone if I was trying to explain this off branch of hardcore that is called screamo, and I would
Thank
also
you.
show like fluoride and
I love
um
that band.
there was another band. There was a band that played New Friends the first year I filmed it called Digest, and Vanessa, who books for New Friends, was singing for that band as well. So there's like,
Oh, cool.
I think it's very important to like be aware of like who are the bands to help explain the subgenre of the subgenre to someone that might not know. But I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like y'all are gonna create a little bit of a because if Joe Hardcore is an open-minded old head, I think that's fair
Hmm.
to say.
Yeah.
I think he's with it. Like he booked Kublai Khan for This Is Hardcore, so I think I
Hmm.
was like respect because I love that band.
Yeah.
But the fact that he was getting so hyped on you guys, I was like, is Roman Candle going to play This Is Hardcore this like a year? Because like that to me would totally make sense, and I think that would be a really good move to like. I'm sure there would be a ton of screamo fans who are like, "This is hardcore. Like, what is that?" You know?
Yeah. I would love to play This Is Hardcore. I actually hit him up to try to get on the lineup this year, but it was the same time as New Friends Fest, literally the
Right.
same fucking weekend, so he
Right.
couldn't. But he wasn't like opposed to the idea, which is kind of cool. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
Okay.
um, I don't know. I think it's cool. I definitely don't want to limit Roman Candle to just screamo though.
Mm.
I like my home is with hardcore, you know, and that's how we all feel about it. And I don't ever want to just play screamo shows or screamo fest. Like I definitely want to branch out. I want to play everything we can, honestly. But if I had to pick like a home for us, I think that that would be hardcore. And if that
Yeah.
means that we bridge the gap between screamo kids that haven't heard of hardcore before, like that's great.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I am a little sus about screamo kids that don't like hardcore.
Oh, that's an
That's
interesting subject.
strange. It's
That is.
strange because it's like it's like hardcore kids that don't like punk. Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, like screamo kids, like I feel like the everything starts off with like hardcore punk, you know? And if you
Hmm.
like this little weird niche of screamo, but you can't rock with this one, like what started that genre,
Hmm.
that's something's off about that to me. I don't know.
So, just to play off of this, you understand why hardcore kids. There's probably a lot of hardcore kids that don't like screamo.
Yes, I get that.
Right.
I
But the other way
honestly,
around, you think is weird.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I've never thought
Because
about it that way.
I understand why hardcore kids don't like screamo kids because they're kind of pretentious. And like that's the point of screamo, you know? Like it's niche and it's being not popular is like a cool thing in screamo and a lot of screamo kids don't like to move during band, like they kind of just like to stand there with their arms crossed and they're very online based and can't really handle confrontation and that's like everything that hardcore isn't.
Sure.
But somehow it's still heavy music, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm talking about like the super scramsy, like strictly screamo people. I'm not talking about the like offbeat, like kind of mix of the two genres. But
Hmm.
I get why hardcore kids are kind of wary of that scene and that kind of music. But screamo kids, like I think a lot of them don't understand. Like this is just a part of hardcore.
Mm.
Screamo is hardcore. Like it is a subgenre of the main genre and you kind of have to pay homage to, you know, where you got your riffs from eventually, you know? Like,
You have to play homage where you got your riffs. 100%.
yeah.
Nothing has been said truer today, in my opinion. Um, yeah, like I totally get it. And I've said this a few times on the show because I've had, Rohan from New Friends on. I've had, Mark from Masanera. I want to do more of these interviews with people that are dipping their toes into other like aspects of heavy music, not just like this is a hardcore podcast alone. I just want it to
Yeah,
be like a DIY like music podcast, so to
for
speak.
sure.
Um, I totally get why certain people don't like it, but I think filming New Friends was the biggest like challenge for me in the early days because it was like, oh yeah, like I could film 4/4 time fast part into two step into breakdown like with my eyes closed. I could literally point
Hmm.
the camera and if it was autofocusing, I could do that
Uh-huh.
100 times over. But then I'm like, oh, I'm shooting this band that is in like 7/8 time, and they have all these like weird stops, and I have to actually rely on my intuition and my gut way more.
Hmm.
Um, so I felt like it really like challenged me, and I think like made me a little bit more in tune with like the music than just like anticipating, oh, here comes the fucking
Definitely.
snare roll or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a ton of like amazing and talented musicians like who've played New Friends and who are just in the screamo scene and at least something in my world like there's a lot of people that were like there are a lot of photographers but not a lot of videos of these bands.
Hmm.
So when New Friends brought me out, there's like I would like just sometimes just go to check. I'm like, who else has filmed this band? And it might be like a little phone recording, but not of the level of what we do. So
Yeah. But
as an archivist, I get really excited about that because it's like this cool debut.
I think it's cool that you're doing that. But I think also a big part of why people like screamo is because it's so hard to find anything
Right.
Like, it's hard to find the bands. You
Don't
can't find
film this
videos of the
band.
bands. Don't film it. Don't take pictures. Like, that's the thing with screamo is like
Mhm.
it's meant to be underground, you know? It's meant to be hard to find, and it's cool if you find a band with 100 monthly listeners that no one's ever heard of, and even if it's not the best band, you're gonna like it because because it's like rare, I guess,
Mhm.
you know? And I that's something that I personally don't love about that scene.
Hmm.
That's I think there are so many talented musicians in screamo. I think it's such like a hard genre to play and to write in terms of like heavy music,
Mhm.
but no one like people intentionally make their shit hard to find. And as an artist, I mean, maybe that's just because I don't get it. But if I spend hours on something, I want everyone to see it. I want the whole world to see it. I want to get it into as many ears and eyes as possible. And
Yeah.
Screamo is just like the complete opposite of that, which drew me to it when I first started listening to it. Cause I was like, oh, this is cool. No one knows about this. But now that I'm in it, I'm like, no one knows about this.
Mm.
You
Yeah,
know?
I feel like it's kind of there's two sides of the coin because
Hmm.
even though I didn't like grow up on screamo, there was definitely like I prided myself when it was like I'm the only one that knows this band, at least in my
Exactly.
purview.
Hmm.
Like certain people wouldn't talk about it, and I would almost prefer um listening to the niche versus like the band that everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
But I would go to a fest and see someone wearing that band's shirt. I'm like, "You listen to Guilt Trip from Manchester?" And
Uh-huh.
there's like, "Yeah, they're awesome." And then we would have this awesome conversation about how sick that band is. So it's
Yeah.
like I think you're right that up front there might be this weird thing of like I think I want it just to be for me, but at the end of the
Mhm.
day, especially if it's on the fucking internet, it is for everyone.
That's
And
true.
if you do meet someone who is like a big fan of that band, I know that you would have it wouldn't be like this weird conflict of like who's a better fan or
No,
any of
no, for
that.
sure. Yeah. No, I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying like I wrote haikus. Like one of the most popular screamo bands in the fucking world. A big part of the reason why they're so popular is because there's no videos of them. All their songs are just numbers. There's hardly any lyrics for anything, you know? And
Right.
they're a great band, but and also the recording quality is like terrible. And that's that you mentioned that earlier with hardcore too, is like people kind of um take pride in things being kind of shitty.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of that in screamo, which is it's cool, but being in it, being on this side of the coin, I don't love it
Right.
because I selfishly want people to listen to my band. You know, I want people to move at our shows. That's like the biggest thing too. Is like we played some screamo shows where just no one moves, and it's so awkward. It's so I'm pouring my heart out in front of you, and you can't even like nod your head a little bit. You're just
Um,
standing there with your arms crossed. Oh, it drives me crazy. And that's so much of what screamo is, you know?
mhm. I
Oh, it drives me crazy.
at New Friends this last year that we filmed, like honest like the top moments were when there was like that one person's like I'm stage diving, and then everyone's like, oh
Nice.
shit, I think I could stage dive if that one person
Yeah.
did. And then like when Dangers played and w- there was just a huge circle pit that opened up the entire
Hmm.
room. I like you can see me in the video. I'm just like, yeah, because I'm the
Like
hardcore
finally.
kid in the word. Like
Yeah.
just yeah. There are certain things where it's like again there are certain, I guess, bands or musicians that you more so just want to watch. Like, I'm not gonna go mosh. Do you know the band Intervals?
Mm-mm.
So, like, they're like a gent band from up here in Canada. I'm not gonna go
Hmm.
there to like lose my mind and like send
Yeah.
someone home in a body bag. I'm there to watch Aaron just do all this tappy shit and whatever. Because
Hmm.
like, it's even the same of like a band like Spirit Box. Like, I wouldn't go to a show to like go pit it up. Is like, yeah,
Hmm.
like they have good songs. I would probably like if I was front row and I could watch Mike play guitar, that's what I would want to do. But
Yeah.
for hardcore, it's way different because it's like the combination of the riffs and the aggression and like the vibe of what everyone else is doing. It creates an environment that you can't get in a lot of other genres of music. And
Exactly.
so we're I know that we're on the same page, but I know that there is this like there is this dance of like okay, I love your your devout attention to me during our set, but I do want you just to get a little crazy.
Yeah, I mean, especially like in screamo is crazy. It's chaotic. It's like that's what it's supposed to be. I don't think you should mosh to every band. I don't even think you need to mosh to screamo, but just move. Just do something. Like stop standing there with your arms crossed, acting like like this,
Yeah.
just staring at the band, especially when the band is just fucking going off. Like, and that's something, we played like a handful of screamo shows in Southern California a week and a half ago.
Mhm.
And every single like we played at this intro track that was just like a breakdown. First song. Because I just wanted to set the tone. Like, we are not going to stand still. We are not going to sit here with our arms crossed. Like, we are going to move and we are going to dance because that's what I'm here for.
Mhm.
And I hope there's more of that in screamo in the future.
I'll just say it, whether we're filming New Friends this year or not, if there needs to be that first mosher for your set, I raise my hand.
I will find you and I will assign you that role. You don't have a choice if you're there.
Yeah, I am not responsible what happens during the first song of Roman Candle. I'll just say that.
When one of the Elias with Not Just a Phase,
Mhm.
we did a interview with them a while ago, but he
Yeah.
was at our show at Program, and I found him and I was like, "Yo, you are starting this. You are going to start moving. You're going to be the first one because I'm not going to just sit here and let people stare at me awkwardly." For the next 20 minutes, like you are going to move. And he was like, okay. And then he did.
Yeah.
And it was like the craziest show ever. It was so sick.
There have been times where I've publicly shamed people mid-set of like, you better fucking start this circle pit lead.
Oh, me too.
And he's like, and I was like, I remember we were playing the show. I was trying to get a circle pit going. And to me, circle pits are needed in hardcore, but they are not beloved. Like,
they are not.
Circle pits would be so fucking awesome if everyone was on the same page about circle pits.
Yeah.
But there's people like, I'm not running in a fucking circle. But if everyone did, it would be like the craziest shit. And you would talk about, it would be like, did you feel like hundreds of people just running around versus like 10 people just me.
Dude, everyone in Vegas hates circle pits.
Yeah. But
they fucking hate it.
Bands are not going to stop writing fast riffs. So
no.
Like,
do something.
do something. But yeah, I was
all
like,
I'm saying.
I was trying to get a circle pit going, and I pointed at Lee, and shout out to Lee from False Body. False Body's I would say False Body is not a screamo hardcore crossover band. They're like a hardcore band that could play New Friends.
That's cool.
I really trying to pitch them a little bit more, but they're like heavily like Converge influenced. But
nice.
You should check them out as well.
I'll
give you a couple homework pieces, but Lee, their guitar player, I don't think he has a mosh bone in his body, but I was like, Lee, you have you start this shit up. And then I look down, start the riff, and I look up and he's leading this pack of like 20
That's
kids.
so cool.
It was so hilarious.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that there is hopefully going to be more of that where there's going to be bands that are doing that, kind of playing in both worlds. But it is cool to hear how you're like, no, we want to be a hardcore band first. And then Screamo will obviously be there, but it will be secondary.
Yeah, that's kind of, and we're all on the same page with that too. I think when we first dropped our EP, like it was picked up super fast by like the screamo community, which I'm super thankful for. But like we are a hardcore band. It's like in our like fucking blood. Like we can't just not be a hardcore band. We can't not play hardcore shows. So I think I'll always be appreciative for like how welcoming the screamo scene has been to us. But I do want to be on both sides of it for sure.
So here's an exercise that we can quickly do. I wouldn't say that this is dream lineup, but to build a lineup that can really bring both of those worlds together and be able to look at the other and be like, oh, I understand what you're doing, and maybe have some spillover. Roman Candles up top. Who are two hardcore bands and who are two screamo bands that you feel would like balance those scales?
Ooh,
really well?
That's a really good question. So we did a run with Blind Girls. They would be on that. Blind Girls is so good.
Yes.
They have the screamo parts, and there are like 3 parts during their set, and I know this because I saw it like 4 nights in a row. There's like 3 parts where it's like if a hardcore kid heard this, they would go fucking insane.
Mm.
And there's videos where I was like the only one moshing during their set, like full on arm swinging, just like to get it going, you know?
Mm.
They would be on it. As for the screamo side, God, who else? I think that band Gift from God would be really good too
On the screamo
on
side.
that on the screamo side
Okay.
because they have a lot of heavy riffs, you know, a lot of like breakdowny parts. I think that's what matters. I think if a screamo band plays breakdowns, they can be considered a hardcore band.
I feel like
honestly.
if any band of any genre doesn't play breakdowns, you are leaving so much on the table.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then so there's this band from Vegas that just popped up called Dreaming Maria.
Okay.
And they're very like emo violence-y, but they kind of have the breakdowns, hardcore stuff. I think they would be good on that too.
Okay.
But they are definitely more of a hardcore band. And then, oh man, I think like Entry would be really good too.
Oh, okay. That's a good pick. Yeah.
Because they're fast, they're heavy, but hardcore kids love them. And I think screamo kids would too if they listen to them in a live setting.
Yeah.
In a live setting.
Yeah. That's a killer gig.
I think it'd be crazy. I should book it right now.
Yeah. All the bands, please email Piper and I, and we'll set it up.
Yeah.
Piper, one of the last things I want to ask you. Mm-hmm. Apparently, you're big into hockey.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I am.
So you're big into hockey pre your neck of the woods getting a team, hey?
Before what? I didn't hear that.
Before you got a team. Before you got the Golden Knights. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I started playing hockey when I was like 10. I think my mom was watching the Penguins in Detroit, like Stanley Cup, or the Penguins and Red Wings Stanley Cup game. And I was like, this is sick. And it was like the first hockey game I'd ever watched. And then, I started playing shortly after. I did ice for a little bit. And then ice was a little too competitive and expensive. So I moved on to roller, and I did that in high school.
Gotcha.
And then I picked up playing ice and roller recently, but I kind of had to stop because of all the band stuff.
Right.
But yeah, the Knights weren't a thing yet, and I was like the only kid in my entire school that played hockey.
Well, as a Canadian, where we are born and bred on that shit, it's weird. Like my parents have a place down in Arizona they bought a number of years ago, and it was weird going to see a hockey game there, where there was like, you know, obviously, you know, you could go to a hockey game and there's no snow on the ground, but it was like snow on the ground doesn't exist out here, even maybe once a year.
Yeah.
So when I heard that you were a big hockey kid, but like, you know, like we talked about, grew up in Las Vegas where it maybe snows once. Never.
No, it snowed once in like 2008, I think.
Man, must be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like so was it just watching the games that just like you were like, because it's weird to get into something where you don't have the hometown team to root for, right?
That was kind of hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad played. No, it didn't. My dad played hockey too. He was a goalie. But he wasn't playing when I got into it. My parents are split up, so I just saw my mom watching it, and I was like, "Oh, that's fucking sick! I want to do that." And then I talked to my dad about it, and then my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I used to play hockey," and I was like, "Oh, okay." So then him finding out I was into it, he just got me into it, and it was cool. Right. It was weird because, like I said, like it wasn't something you could just go play outside with the neighborhood kids. Like I couldn't be like, "Hey, go grab a hockey stick. We're gonna play street hockey," because no one had those. Right. But it was cool to kind of, I don't know, get like I have 5 younger siblings, so it was cool to get them into that and teach them how to skate, and then, you know, do the little pickup games on the weekends and stuff at the roller rink.
Yeah. So did you have a team that you were cheering before the Golden Knights?
The Penguins.
Okay. So whoever your parents were cheering for.
Yeah, my mom was Penguins. My dad really liked the Blackhawks.
I see.
And I just picked my mom's side because.
So are you still a Penguins fan, or do you cheer for the Golden Knights?
I'm still a Penguins fan.
Oh,
I
okay.
went to the Knights in the Penguins game earlier. Was it earlier this year? No, it was like last year. And I showed up in my Penguins jersey. I had to.
Making some enemies in the stands.
I did. I mean, honestly, it was pretty divided. It was pretty 50-50. I think
Oh, really?
a lot of people in Vegas that like hockey like the Penguins by default because they were doing really good for a while.
Yeah.
So and Fleury, the goalie of the Penguins, was on the Knights for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So it was just kind of like no one really cared who won. Everyone was kind of there for a good time, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, it is like, so I grew up in Winnipeg, so like I'm a Jets fan. Even despite living in Calgary now now I'm in Toronto, but like there's no way in heck I'm ever gonna cheer for Toronto, with peace and love. But I would go see the Jets play the Coyotes, and there's a lot of like snowbirds that like are down there, and like it was like a 50-50 split of like there was what we won, and there was people saying "Go Jets, go" in Arizona. I'm like, this is just so strange. Like this should only be happening back home, but it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you feel pressure to cheers for the Golden Knights?
Only when the Penguins are playing.
Okay.
I do. When I'm like actually watching it, it's kind of weird being like, especially when I'm watching it like at home or like at like a bar, with like my girlfriend's dad, and he's like cheering for the Knights, and I'm like, the Penguins are playing. I want them to win, but I kind of have to be quiet about it,
Yeah, but it is a thing. Like I feel like where I'm from and where you're from, we are the last two examples of us not having a team and then getting a team, and then it's like, there's people in Winnipeg who were just cheering for whatever Canadian team was closest, right? But
yeah, for sure.
When I moved out to Alberta, and then I just had to learn of all this crazy rivalry between the Oilers and the Flames, I'm like, oh, I don't even want to touch that, because that
you don't want to get
is
into
so
it.
deep seated. But yeah, like I honestly, I think I judge people who don't cheer for their local team. And that's not even just in hockey, but that could be like, someone lives in Nebraska, but they're like a Golden Knights fan. And I'm like, like, I don't even know who the fucking Nebraska team, or if they have a team. But to me, it's like a thing of hardcore has taught me that you should be proud as fuck where you're from. Like, to me, that would be the weird thing of like, I live in Calgary, but I'm going to ride for California hardcore. I think California hardcore is sick, and I have lots of friends there, but like, that's not my scene, right?
Exactly.
So I kind of apply that same thing with sports. But
I feel that too, but I think so Vegas didn't have a sports team at all for like ever. Like,
yeah, well, that's what I was saying. We're the
Knights was like the
right?
first one. Yeah. So it was, I mean, I had like all the Penguins jerseys, and like I watched them growing up, and I like would fucking pick them when I was playing like NHL 04 or whatever it was. So it's hard to like go back and be like, oh, but Knights are Vegas, that's us. When like it's so Penguins kind of, I hold them close to my heart. But I think if I was raised on the Knights, like if the Knights were here from day one, it wouldn't be a question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that the NHL posted some like people in hardcore? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
They just randomly like posted, because Seb from Regulate is a big hockey dude as well, and it was like he was like one of the first slides. He rides for the Islanders really, really hard. He rides for the Islanders so hard. He was playing in an Islanders jersey when they were up with Speed and Raw Brigade, and then he's like taking his jersey off, and then he had the same fucking shirt, but like the same design, but just in shirt form. I'm like, you motherfucker. But
that's so funny.
the NHL just like posted all these like people in hardcore bands being like, hardcore people cheering for their respected teams or whatever. I'm like,
that's so sick.
So it's very clear that they missed one, not doing a Penguins, Roman candle feature.
They did. They did. I'm gonna reach out to them about that. And I'm going to tell them I'm pretty upset that they didn't consider me.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe next season.
Maybe.
We'll see.
But then, see, I feel like at that point I have to rep the Knights.
Oh.
Because Vegas, you know? Maybe I just won't be a part of it. I just won't make a choice. I'm sorry. I take it back.
No. We want the odd chance that someone who knows someone who maybe knows someone who works at the NHL and runs the Instagram. We want some hockey Roman candle love.
Dude,
please and thank you.
I want to make a hockey jersey for Roman Candle. We were talking about it for new friends.
Yes.
I want to so bad, but I feel like it would be so fucking expensive.
It is, but it will be worth it. I will buy one.
Dude, I think it'd be so sick. I really want to do one.
If you have a hockey jersey and I'm on mosh duty, like I'm gonna have to like put a mouth guard in. It will be bad.
Yeah, definitely. That's why we made those. We made like those dance team shirts because I really wanted to encourage people like moving at our shows.
Yeah,
because I was sick of like playing out of state and everyone just kind of standing there.
Do you know?
And it helped.
Yeah. Do you know what mini sticks are?
Mm-mm.
Maybe that's just a Canadian thing, but it's like a hockey stick that's like only this big.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I got some of those for Christmas when I was little.
Roman candle mini stick.
That would be kind of cool.
Crowd kill if you want. Not at New Friends probably, but.
I hope someone crowd kills at New Friends. We were making a joke about covering Pantera just to like scare the screamo kids.
You're saying all the right things here, Piper.
I know.
Well, Piper, this has been really, really, really fun. One last question before we start to wrap up and head towards the close. I ask this to any guest who comes on the podcast. Tell me off the top of your head a favorite mosh story of yours. So that could be wholesome, gruesome, something that happened to you, something that you did, something at a Roman Candle show or just a show you were attending. Whatever's the first off your head.
Oh, dude. I have to mention the last Roman Candle show we played in Vegas because that was the most insane, like not the most, but one of the most insane crowds I've seen for a local band in Vegas ever. Like there was fucking crowd surfing at the Legion Post 8. There was like hella stage diving. So many people got hurt. I saw like all my bro friends that are like the heavy hitting moshers were in there just like beating up on all the kids, just like push moshing, and it was fucking chaos. That was crazy. And then I think another funny story. I'll give you two.
Yeah,
one with me moshing. One with me moshing. My little brother's band Associate. They covered a TUI song at like our local like Christmas toy drive show we do, and I got kicked so fucking hard in the ribs. I had to go to the hospital because I thought I like broke a rib. It was insane. Some dude just like donkey kicked me. Like I went flying.
Oh.
Right in the rib, right before the holidays. And it was right before we went on tour too.
Oh fuck.
And it's not my first pit injury. Like I definitely tried to tough it out, and I like sat there for a little bit, and I was like, no, this doesn't feel right. Something isn't right here.
Right.
But it was insane. Someone got knocked out. There was a lot of blood on the floor after their set. It was crazy.
TUI will do that. They'll bring out something.
Yeah. It was so fun though.
Which TUI song was it? Do you remember?
Pleased to Meet You.
Oh.
Yeah. So
fantastic.
We also have, I'm sorry, one more. We have my friend Vlad. He is like the most insane mosher in Vegas. He will go for people standing like in the back by the bathroom and just like crowd kill the fuck out of them. I've seen so many fights and just things happen because of him. And there's so many videos of him too, which is super cool.
Well, in hockey terms, I would say that's a mosh hat trick. So thank you for doing that.
There you go. Yeah, yes. Sorry, I had to go on a little spiel.
No,
for a second,
it's
because
I
love that shit. Like
I'm not gonna deny a mosh story. But Piper, it's been a great time chatting with you. All the Roman Candle links and your links will be in the show notes and in the description. If there's anyone you want to shout out, anything you want to plug, or anything you want to send the people off with, the floor is yours.
Check out Black Path LVHC if you're ever planning to head up Vegas. Listen to every band from Vegas ever,
Yes.
ever, just all of them. Yeah, that's all.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm excited to see y'all at New Friends this year. And will that be your debut Canadian show?
It will be. Yeah,
Okay. Epic
I'm
shit.
super stoked. We don't have our passports yet.
Should get those.
Well, we applied for them, but we haven't gotten them in the mail
Okay.
yet. And I heard it's hard to get into Canada if if you've ever been arrested. So I'm a little worried about that, but I'm fingers crossed we can make it across the border and play
Okay.
the show.
Well,
Yeah.
if you ever have any questions about that, I got a plethora of knowledge, not only through myself but through other people that have helped people get across the border.
Sweet.
And
Cool.
yeah, I'm stoked to link up officially. And thanks for coming on the pod.
Yeah, dude, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.